Set in a dystopian Massachusetts a few hundred years in the future, Fallout 4 was originally released on November 10th of 2015 to mostly positive coverage. The narrative, gameplay, and soundtrack were praised for their high level of quality. On console, though, it became apparent that the game was a bit of a mess. The frame rate was inconsistent, rarely sticking to the 30 FPS target. There were numerous bugs that led to a wide variety of issues. And just how have the last 5+ years of patches and community modding work helped shape this title? And how does it run on the new generation of Xbox consoles? The years and massive increase to power have been incredibly kind to Fallout 4. I played through the main story and quite a large amount of the side content on an Xbox Series X using both the newly introduced FPS boost mode and with a 4K 60 FPS Ultra PC settings mod. Of the two, I ended up sacrificing my achievements in using the mod. I found the drop to 1080 with the boost mode enabled to be just too fuzzy for me, and the extra graphical settings of the modded version, along with various texture packs, made the game a legit stunner at times. There is an enormous modding community around the game, one that is far bigger on PC as there is a size limit for the mods on the console version, and I highly recommend it to anyone that is going to try this game for the first time now that it has joined Xbox Game Pass. I played the game at launch, and the combat at 30 frames per second felt floaty and, at times, downright terrible. 60 frames per second is an enormous help, and while it is still not a great feeling game, it is a massive improvement over launch. The RPG systems here are tried and true, and if you played Fallout 3, you know what to expect. I ended up pushing a build that focused on hacking, charisma, and hitting hard with single-shot rifles, and I loved it. The automatic aiming system is back, but at 60 frames per second, I found myself barely ever using it. Occasionally, the capability of forcing a critical hit through it was tempting enough to hit the left bumper, but the input lag severely reduced at higher frame rates meant I just didn't need it as often to succeed. Fallout 4 begins with a solid character creator. As I am generally terrible at these, I just hit the randomized button on my husband and wife combo until I felt satisfied. My 2015 playthrough was as a female, so this time I went with the male character, and I was happy to find that his voice acting was decent. Overall, I'd say the voice acting is slightly better than the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, but it's still a notch below the best of the industry. There is one synthetic exception I'll touch upon shortly. A strong opening has you making a mad dash to get into your Fallout shelter vault as nuclear war is starting to destroy America. After just making it in time, you're frozen in a cryopod. Nefarious goings-ons lead you to not exiting the pod for a very long time, and you awaken to a beautiful but desolate version of future Massachusetts. As you start on your path to the main quest, you'll visit various landmarks, which, as someone born and raised in the state, I found it to be odd and exciting. This smashed-together version of future near Boston, Massachusetts, is the main star of the game for me personally. Most of the characters are okay, though many do come off as a bit one-dimensional. The real star is the synth robot detective, who goes by the name of Nick Valentine. Nick comes from one of the potential big bads, depending on your choices, called The Institute. He's straight out of a 1940s American detective movie, and his storyline as one of your potential companions was fantastic. The voice acting and writing were probably my favorite in the game, and I found myself making choices I felt would make him happy as I grew attached to having him around. There are multiple companions you can bring with you, the first being a trusty canine companion named Dogmeat. I admit I did use a mod so that I could always have Dogmeat with me alongside Nick or one of the other potential recruits you meet along the way. It was one of the many times that I felt that fans had taken what was a solid base and turned it into something even better through that modding system. And thankfully, the narrative is excellent. Main and side story alike are generally well written with excellent world building. And your choices help craft a genuinely emotional journey. The ending hit me hard, and I felt proud that my choices had led me to stay friendly with the various factions I had interacted with. The creation engine saw a nice improvement here overall versus Skyrim, though animations were still severely lacking. There is a new workshop system that was introduced that allows you to strip down and build up the various settlements you can find around the map. These were home bases you could recruit people to, but for them to be happy and safe, you would need to build them shelters, provide them beds, food, water, and defensive systems. Getting the items needed for this meant looting, and the weight encumbrance system meant you couldn't just quickly grab everything you found. There's a balance to looting versus storing that was a massive pain to deal with on the Xbox One generation. Fast traveling was never actually fast, and thanks to the SSD available with the Series X and S, it finally is. Most of the times I traveled around, it took me no more than 8 seconds, with most of them being 4 or 5 second load times. And as you locate areas on the map, most of them will end up becoming fast travel spots. This is a huge quality of life improvement over my launch playthrough, and it made the game legitimately much more enjoyable. The soundtrack for the game is excellent, and I found myself humming the piano chords of the main theme repeatedly throughout my time. And the combat music helps to get your heart racing while a group of feral ghouls are trying to gnaw your face off. Sound effects are solid, though the gun sounded a bit flat at times in comparison to more modern titles like Battlefield 5. Unfortunately, with or without mods, I still ran into quite a few bugs during my 30+ hours of campaign gameplay. Most weren't major, things like clipping through items or having to reposition myself in just the right way to get an interaction prompt. Some, though, were completely game-breaking and forced me to reload. Numerous times I had the last NPC in an encounter show up on my compass, but they had fallen through the world, so I simply could not kill them to get the game to move me on to the next point of the mission. Thankfully, though, the save system is easy enough to use that I rarely lost more than 5 or 10 minutes of progress, but a few times I lost almost 30 minutes as I had forgotten to manually save and I had not been given an autosave. In conclusion, Fallout 4 is a damned good video game. While it may have its fair share of problems and the engine really does feel dated now, it's got a robust community of modders and a compelling narrative that make it an easy recommendation through Xbox Game Pass. Without the ability to mod away many of the issues, I wouldn't be as quick to recommend it, so if you care more about achievements, you may want to hold off. Overall, though, I loved my time with the game, and I am incredibly excited to see what they do next with Starfield. Fallout 4 is available on Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Windows PC, and through cloud streaming for Xbox Game Pass. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you do subscribe, please click that little bell so you can know whenever we post. It is surprisingly often, and we will see you here next time on XboxEra.